best there is, best there was, and the best there ever will be. And you know it.
With the tears in my eyes.
The cream of the crop. Acknowledge me.
What's up, everybody? Episode 406 of Top Rope Nation, a Tuesday. Now, I don't even know when the last time we did a Tuesday night show is. It's been a really, really long time. Ryan Drosty, Jesse Velasquez, and a very, very special guest who I will introduce here momentarily. Jesse, how you doing tonight, man?
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I could be. Weren't we on the air last Tuesday?
On the flagship? Were we? I don't even
It was
remember.
either that or the Monday after World's End. I'm pretty sure it was Tuesday.
Oh, I don't know, man. I got holiday brain still.
Trust me, I do too. As I was telling you guys off air, I am in the midst of shoot job, heaven, hell, whatever you want to look at. It's like accountant's April, basically, for me at this point in the month of January.
Oh, man, it's crazy. Just back teaching now. Holiday break is over and, getting back into the swing of things. It's been wild. So we definitely wanted to talk a little New Japan. We haven't talked New Japan much on the show in quite a while. We'll talk about it in spurts, when big things are happening, like WrestleKingdom or Dominion or the G1. But, it's not like a heavy focus on our show usually. And we oftentimes will talk about how if people want some New Japan talk, they should go tune into Speaking of Strong Style. And we have one of the hosts on the show with us tonight. And he was in attendance at the Tokyo Dome for Hiroshi Tanahashi's farewell match against Kazuchika Okada this past weekend. He's back in the States. And not only that, it's his birthday right now. And he was kind enough to spend part of his birthday with us. Jeremy Finestone, how you doing tonight, sir?
Whiplash from all that information about me. Crazy. It really was a whirlwind kind of week. I'm doing great. A little bit jet lagged. I'll be with you on that one, but I am recovering from coming back from the flight. I flew out the day after WrestleKingdom, but that was January 5th going into January 6th. So I flew into the States as if it were my birthday. My watch and my phone all gave me the notification. And as soon as I landed, it reverted back to January 5th. And I got all of that all over again, which was quite the experience, but not quite the experience of being in the Tokyo Dome for Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada's match that main evented, and then bonus track of that retirement ceremony that you guys watched on TV. And I was very lucky, very, very lucky to be ringside for that event.
Man, it's crazy. I mean, you and I was texting you as the show was going on. I was laying in bed that night. I didn't stay up for the whole show, but I was laying there. I couldn't sleep. I'm like, all right, I'm going to put it on my phone and watch it here in bed. And then I'm like text messaging you, who's like basically front row there in the Tokyo. Technology is so cool. So cool. And now here you are on the show. Very cool. And I was trying to think, Jeremy, because we've hung out in person a few times, and I was like, when did Jeremy and I first meet? And I know for sure that,
Chicago.
Was it
maybe 2021 or 2022 when I met the both of you?
Yeah.
We were sitting next to each other, and I believe we had John Moxley right near us at one point of the show.
So, yeah, and that night I remember because my phone was going dead and you were kind enough to let me use your mobile charger there. But so I met you before that, though, because I couldn't remember if it was All Out 21, which I wasn't at with Jesse, but I was there with Kyle, our old co-host, and Justin, who couldn't join us tonight. But then I know for sure we hung out at the Sweet Party in Vegas, Double or Nothing weekend.
That was before then?
Yeah, so that was in May 2022.
Okay.
So we for sure, I remember staying on that balcony. I don't know what floor it was. We were way up in Vegas and talking with you a lot that night. And then, a few months later at All Out in Chicago.
I thought it was the other way around, but you're probably, I will tell you, when I was in Vegas, my friend, I'm not exactly sure the recollection of exactly who I met and when. If that was the COVID, if that was the famous COVID weekend, then that was in fact 2021.
It was the COVID weekend. Both my wife and I and Justin got COVID at that party for sure.
It was the one and only time that I got COVID, and I was miserable, but I
So bad.
thankfully did not have the experience that I know other people had. So count my blessings on that one.
And Jesse, so you know Jeremy for a while as well. Chime in here.
Yes, we met in, as he mentioned, 2022 All Out. You sat next to me to my right. And yes, Jon Moxley, I still have 3 or 4 photos of him, like literally this close to me.
It was crazy. Stopped right in front of our section.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, he's actually
Regal too, right?
Yeah.
Regal was near. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In fact,
Mean
on our
mugging
show,
all of us, giving him the scowl.
in fact, on our I believe, yeah, that's from that night. The show intro, I have a brief clip of Moxley walking over there by us. If you watch real closely on our show intro, it's very brief. I didn't want to copyright strike, but it's in there, and that's from that night. So you're on our show intro, didn't even know it. You have to watch. If you blink, you'll miss it. But
the funny thing is there was a series of pay-per-views that I would go to, and for about 3 pay-per-views in a row, Jon Moxley was right up in my face, like 3 different times, and then it stopped, and I was really thankful it did, because I didn't want to just be like Jon Moxley cameo guy, like that Brock Lesnar guy that wore the same shirt every time. The last time it happened, though, was actually really funny. We were at the San Jose Civic for one of the New Japan shows, and Moxley, I think, was wrestling, I want to say Shingo Takagi that night, right before he challenged for the IWGP. Well, I had gone to the bathroom, and I came back out the entrance, and all of a sudden I got this feeling like, oh shit, Moxley's coming out right behind me. And I ran off to the left, right where my seats were, and within like 2 seconds, he had burst through the doors. And I was just like, oh my God. It would have been a Botchamania moment. And I always think about that as like, okay, this streak of Moxley in me, it really has to stop.
Was one of those, were you at All Out 21 in Chicago when Punk came back? So yeah, we were in the same row that night too. I probably met you there because I remember he walked down the aisle.
Yeah,
you were there. Garrett was there.
It might have been 21 that I was thinking of. I went to 21 and I went to 22 because 22 was Brawl Out, right?
Yep.
And when that happened, like we were there, and I was talking to some people who were really deep in the situation at the time. It was kind of a crazy night, and it kind of took over all the narrative of anything else that happened in that night. You know, it all just became that event, and just crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll never forget Jesse and myself and Tim, we were headed back to our hotel room, and we just like, I think Jesse saw it first that was happening, and we were like, what is this real? Is this what is happening right now?
I had the exact same reaction. Then all of a sudden it just blew up, and everyone was just like, you got fits and bursts of information, but nothing really made sense right out the gate.
Yeah.
And they were all just like, is this real? Is this not real? Is this some angle for Dynamite? And then we had the next year being kind of overshadowed by that one night.
1 year later, on my way into Chicago for All Out 23, half an hour away from Chicago, CM Punk fired by AEW.
Yep. Well, all this was years ago. So I think the greater point, guys, is we need to get to a show together again, because it's been a couple of years for sure. That would be a lot of fun.
Big things happen when we get together. Like,
yeah, they do.
They try to impress us when like we are a coalescence of a wrestling mastermind. And like, we got to give the good stuff to the Top Rope Nation and Fight Game Media people.
Assessment.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, I mean, like I said, your podcast is great that you and Steven do. Fight Game Media, of course, run by Garrett Gonzalez, friend of the show as well. We all met through Blue Wire back in the day. So met so many cool people doing the show, and to be able to bring you on as someone who was actually there in attendance is super cool, because it's fresh in all of our minds. And I know you, as a longtime New Japan fan, this was definitely a dream trip to go to the Tokyo Dome, and to go to Tokyo. And you were posting the pictures on your Facebook page, and I saw that you posted some of them on social media as well. Got some great shots. I think we want to just start out by, I want to just know, just conversationally here, how the trip came about, like what went into making this happen, what it meant to you as a longtime fan of New Japan.
So it really started about last year when my podcast partner, Steven, went to WrestleKingdom 19 and Wrestle Dynasty in the 2-night event, and it was a gift from his wife, or his partner, and they went together, and she understood that, like, this is your Mecca trip. Let's go and let's have you do this up. And then they actually went back to Japan a few months later, and they did the revisit again. So he expressed what a great time he had, when he was there. And almost immediately after that, at the Battle in the Valley last year, there was a retirement ceremony for Sumi Sakai, who was the Ring of Honor kind of liaison for talent and just kind of made life easier and was really like connective tissue between Japan and the United States in a way that she doesn't get enough credit for. It was around that time where I was watching that retirement, I'm like, I think I have to go to Japan. When you just have that moment. And because I did the podcast, I had actually joined the New Japan fan club, because they post information that you can't get otherwise, like diary journals of the wrestlers, and whether or not it does anything with the storyline, it just gives you context, and context is really important when you're doing when you're doing this, when you're doing analysis for a promotion. You kind of have to get in the weeds a little bit about how these wrestlers are portraying themselves and they're portrayed within the promotion, because in Japan, what you say, you are more free to be yourself as a person. And so they're expressing their own beliefs and their own thoughts. Like Yoda Tsuji mouthed off in so many different ways about what he was going to do in New Japan if he's the man, and now he's the man. So we're going to see if he's putting his money where his mouth is. So about January last year, I had to make sure I had my passport, do all these other things. And with that fan club membership that I had access to like the pre-sale. And it was at like 7 p.m. on a Sunday night. Like, I'm sitting at my computer and I'm just like, I don't care how much the tickets are, I'm just gonna buy them. And I have a buddy, his name is Miguel. He's part of our friend group around here, and I knew he was already going to Japan. He was interested, and his wife was going to go. And I told him how much it was, and I'm like, I'm going to buy 2. Do you want one? And it took him about 30 seconds to say yes, and he did. And so I got on there. I guess there were only about 40 tickets available for these seats, and I did the $1,500, and I said, I hit click. I bought them. I took a deep breath, and I said, all right, we're doing this.
This is that time. It's that one time, maybe.
It was, yeah. I mean, we've all spent like money going to these trips in the States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are all very lucky or very fortunate, or the circumstances align where we all get to take that kind of opportunity for ourselves. But I cannot understate how much I value my wife for giving me the opportunity to do all this. Without her, none of this is possible. And I just had to make sure I said that here now, because it has been on my mind so much what I got to see and the opportunity I had. And it's really all thanks to the support of the people in my life. And I just wanted to make sure I had that out there before I may have stupidly forgotten to say that very important point.
Absolutely. Give it up for Mrs. Finestone.
Yeah. The Savannah in my life is the best person I have in my corner.
Very cool.
Describe the culture of Japan and also the fans inside the Tokyo Dome and just that whole experience and how receptive they were. Yeah, go through that in detail.
So there's a feeling of courtesy around Japan. Like, you need to just be respectful of others and respect the way that they do things. And you don't eat and walk. You buy something and you either pack it up and take it with you, or you eat it in the presence of where you're buying it at. Carrying your trash is common if you can't find a place to to put up. So the entire area is incredibly clean. Culturally, I was there around New Year. So December 30th was a very busy night because I was staying at the Tokyo Dome. A lot of young people hanging out, having a good time, and then almost everything shut down on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day because it's more of a family holiday during that time. I walked over to the Tokon shop on December 31st just to see if it was open, and for those 2 days before WrestleKingdom, they closed the store. They just said, we're not going to try and make any sales today. And after I saw that the days after, I'm like, yeah, they didn't need to be open that day. Everyone was buying everything out of the gate. So, because New Year's Day and New Year's Eve are more party days in the States, that was a big difference too. And then I spent the next couple of days shopping around Shibuya, Akihabara, which are both completely different places. One's like a high-end shopping area, and the other is more like commodified garage, commodified like small store sales. You know, like you buy your toys, you buy the little mecha robots, Pokemon, all that kind of stuff. And suitcases. You could buy all the suitcases you want to carry all the stuff back to America. So it was definitely a different vibe than what you'll see in America, but it all made sense once you had the context to it. So staying at the Tokyo Dome, in Tokyo Dome City, they had a whole restaurant hub menu area. And throughout the whole weekend that I was there, the snow globes and the trees would play the Go Ace theme with LED boards. And as the weekend got closer and New Year's Eve was in the rearview mirror, they began to deck out the entire Tokyo Dome area in Hiroshi Tanahashi. Just paraphernalia, pageantry. They opened up a store that lined across the entire stage in the amphitheater that opened at 9 a.m. and had people there the entire day. This was not a wrestling event. This was a cultural event at the Tokyo Dome. You had some cosplayers. You had people that felt like they needed to be there for this moment, just kind of like I did. And they were there from 9 a.m. until the show was over at whatever time, 9 p.m. at night, because it started at 3. You got in at 2:30, but I don't think the lights came back on until about 9 p.m. at night. But it was cultural. It was more than a wrestling event. It felt like Prince at the Super Bowl kind of thing. Like this was something that people were going to remember for the rest of their lives.
Oh yeah, no question. I had a buddy that went to Japan, and he talked to me about just like the availability. The thing that blew him away was like all the vending machines. I could get like anything out of a vending machine, and like going to the restaurants where the stuff is on like the conveyor belts and all that. I remember him talking to me about that, and I would love to go to Japan. That would be such an awesome trip.
All the restaurants had like 15 or 20 seats, you know, like it wasn't designed for max capacity. They're designed to give you a quality meal and like move you in and out with efficiency. And, you know, like there's the transactional idea of eating a meal and everything was just so much different than here in the States. You know, you don't tip over there. They actually consider it an insult if you tip them because they're paid a living wage, and it's a sign that you don't think that they're doing their job good enough, so that they need to be paid more to do it right. So you don't do that.
Interesting. Did you think about going to the famous Ribera Steakhouse at all?
I did, but number one, if I didn't have the help of some friends, Jake and Lisa and Pete, who had navigated the metro system, I mean, it was fine. But I screwed up so many times that I missed out on Ribera and I missed out on Tuticon. But I went to a number of other places, including this place called How Mean, which is a specialty clothing shop that sells limited edition wear. And I got myself a really nice New Japan hoodie. And then I also checked out Minoru Suzuki's shop and Yuji Nagata's little store. So I got a little bit of flair of that. And then there was a giant Baba pop-up that was right next to the Tokon shop that you had to climb 5 flights of stairs to go into. And if you spent 4,000 yen, you got to take take a picture with all 3 of the Triple Crown belts.
Wow. That's crazy.
Just they loaded it up for the weekend, and then when it was it, they're like, everybody shut down. We got everything we needed out of this one.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about Hao Ming if you had gone there, because I bought a T-shirt from there years. I mean, I know of the store. The T-shirt I got though was just like printed through Pro Wrestling Tees. You know, it's just one of their designs. But yeah, to go to the actual shop, I've seen some videos on YouTube of it, and you know, like Kenny's been associated with them over the years, and that's always supposed to be a cool place. That's really cool. You get to go there.
There were a ton of photos of the wrestlers that had been there in these little like Polaroids that are like that big, all adorned on the wall with their autographs. My friend Lisa actually had a Kenny Omega shirt where he was on like an asteroid or whatever with like the space design behind it, holding a shield and a sword with his trusty cat by his side. And it was just one of those like, that shirt is so sick. And then they did a Shingo Takagi kind of version of that this week that I was unfortunately unable to get my hands on, but had I, it would have been mine.
Nice.
How long have you been a fan of New Japan for, and what drew you to the product?
So I think I started in 2017 really paying attention to New Japan. And the context for me as a wrestling fan was that I was primarily following WWE through like 2010. I'd bounce in and out, maybe I was one of those guys. Like if I got bored, I didn't do anything at all rather than like seek out Ring of Honor or New Japan or anything like that. So what ended up happening was I got into one of those fits and bursts, but there wasn't anything else like getting me into it. And I was hearing about the Bullet Club, and I knew about stuff with AJ Styles and all this stuff. And him coming to WWE was like interesting, but even him coming to WWE was like, I don't quite see the charisma of like being the heel that he was. And I want to see what he was doing in New Japan that got him to the dance. You know, like sometimes the work that you do to get you to the dance in WWE is better than once you get there. I mean, it's a common thing that you see sometimes. So started to deep dive in, dip my toe in. Who's Okada? Who's Naito? Who's AJ? Nakamura, he just left. Oh, it's interesting. I'm going to see him at the NXT show in Dallas when he debuts against Sami Zayn. There's this kind of give and take of information that you need for context going forward, and then you're like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, they're a little stiff right there. You know what I mean? Like you start seeing that stuff, and then I start following, going into 2017 and 2018, and I think by the time Kenny Omega had gotten the title and then dropped it to Tanahashi because he was leaving and all that contract stuff with the backstage with New Japan. And then Tanahashi flips it over to Jay White. And we have this new era. And it just felt like a good jumping on point where I could just watch. And if I got bored with anything else, I had this, it just seemed very stable. Like it was going. And, I was just watching it, and I didn't understand a lick of Japanese. Like I found that Chris Charlton was very informative at the time, but he wasn't always there. It was Kevin Kelly at the time. And I got locked in, and when everything else just felt like it was going all over the place, whether it be a WWE or AEW or anything else that I was watching that I was bored with, New Japan just kind of just did its thing, just kept doing its thing. No matter what, just doing its thing. And then a couple years later, I got bored and decided, hey, maybe I'll do a podcast. And we just celebrated our 200th episode, guys. We had done 200 episodes this past week. So
dead even.
It's been
Jeremy.
a wild journey.
Love it.
It's been a wild journey.
I say on the podcast all the time, I'm pretty sure the average length, I think most podcasts never go beyond, it's like 15 or 20 episodes. So you get to 200 is a heck of an accomplishment.
20 episodes, awesome. Like, hey, if on the first time out I ever do like commit to something like this, I can do 20 episodes. Hey, good for me. Like let's see how this goes. Never met Steven before in my life.
Yeah.
We just partnered up and did a show together. And we're like, all right, well, we'll see how it goes the next time. Still never met him in person, but got some stuff I'm going to send to him from WrestleKingdom. He's turned into a pretty good friend. And if it wasn't for his support and telling me to go, I don't know if I would have gone.
So this is one of the things that you did over there that, I mean, if people don't follow you on social media, is you guys did the podcasting summit with a bunch of the larger New Japan themed podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about how that was, where you guys had it. I know it looked like it was a pretty big success from what I saw.
Yeah. So the Keep It Strong style guys who are part of the Social Suplex, that's their website. They were actually the website that was responsible for the long form article about how the Nakamura, Okada, Tanahashi negotiations went down. So they're very involved in Puro. We also had the We Weren't Stiff podcast, which is long form theory podcast where they just talk about characterization. They don't really care about finishes or knowing anything ahead of time, but they want the context to why every wrestler is narratively doing what they're doing. And then you had the flagship Super J cast out of Voices of Wrestling. Joel from that podcast came through, and we all just kind of said, hey, we're all going to be there. Why don't we just kind of get together, invite everyone to come over, and just kind of make this community feel bigger? And throughout the entire Nakamura, Tanahashi, Okada, we're all speculating and trying to track this for the longest time. I mean, you and I had talked about it before it ever became Okada, that I was pretty sure it was Okada, and this is why. And then curveballs got thrown in our way, but we all got to know each other a little bit better because we were all working with each other to corroborate what was happening. It's like we all had different sources that were all telling us things that, whereas each one of us didn't have the full picture, because we trusted each other and we had briefly worked with each other in the past and just kind of knew that we were all good lads in some sort of way and not really in this for anything other than hey, the truth is the truth here. We all just kind of developed a friendly relationship with each other and cooperated to merchandise a hoodie and any other things that we want. And ironically enough, New Japan kind of reached out and said, hey, you can't really put our logo on there. And so we had to switch it out. And we were never planning on making a profit on it or anything, maybe just some beer money for the show. But what we ended up doing was donating all the proceeds to the Lyric and Danny's Feeding America program that they did on social media right around Christmas for people who needed food around the holidays. It just felt like that. Well, let's just send the money there. That's absolutely a good place to send that stuff. So yeah, we all got to know each other, and then we all got together at the show. We didn't know how well it was going to turn out, but it felt like I didn't take a count, but I took a photo. Felt like 50 to 100 people were there, and it was really gratifying to see a unified community, and everyone was just there ready to have some fun.
Yeah, it was a big crowd from what I saw. It looked really, really cool.
Yeah, it felt gratifying. And, there were people that were there for my show, which also felt good. I'm not just oh, they're throwing me in there, it's like that. No, we're here for a Speed Stroke Show. But, oh, you are? Hey, hi, how are you?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you told me, you're wow, people are recognizing me. This is crazy.
It was wild. What the hell?
It's awesome.
When you do shows, you don't know sometimes if the grind or whatever, you're just speaking into the void. And then when you kind of find out that they may not say anything, but people know who you are, I don't know, it feels like you haven't wasted your time completely with doing a New Japan podcast for 200 episodes. And nobody knows who you are. And somebody knows who I am. And it was personally and professionally a very fulfilling trip on that account.
It's such a niche product, and especially in America.
Right.
But over there, describe that right now. How people feel in Japan about New Japan Pro Wrestling, and especially Hiroshi Tanahashi. I mean, you can go into that one as 1B.
So I think that show had the Aaron Wolf factor and the Tanahashi factor that were overwhelmingly a driver for this business. I don't know if you saw the numbers, but Tanahashi announced that it was 3.5 million 3.5 million people on TV saw he watched it on broadcast television. And I think the New Japan World numbers were 155,000 people watched it on there, which I think might have been one of their highest broadcast, like highest subscription totals ever. I think they were more in the low 100s for their viewership count for some of these big shows in the past. So this thing was a massive, massive, massive success in Japan, and they looked at all of this as a moment of culture and passing. And when you watch the rest of the show, you beyond the Sayata Kamatami match and beyond the Takeshita and Tsuji match, there wasn't a whole lot to that card. You know, it was like boom, 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 boom. Let's get to this. We don't need to overload it. We don't want anyone burned out for what we have at the very end, which was some all-timer stuff. So to me, I don't look at the business that New Japan did on this show as any indicator of their future success going forward. This was more culture. This was more like, this is a Tanahashi moment. Everyone knows who Tanahashi is. If you've ever been affected by Hiroshi Tanahashi, you want to be here for this. So two completely different things in my book. And I really wanted to go to New Year Dash, but my wife had a dinner set up for me that it was like one or the other, and she reserved it a year in advance. And I love New Japan, but I love my wife more. So I came back to that. And I just watched that show that they did, the New Year Dash at the Oda Award Gymnasium. And that was a fantastic show. It was the first time that they had a show where there's no Naito, there's no Okada, there's no Tanahashi, there's none of these old guard guys that take up the air in the room. And they had a really exciting, dynamic first start where guys were getting bloody noses, getting popped in the face. Like, the guys were going hard, and the audience was very much here for it. They disbanded Bullet Club. They brought back the old IWGP title, and incorporated the lineage of the title. So John Moxley is no longer the 9th IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He is now the 81st IWGP Champion, or IWGP Heavyweight Champion. They removed the world out of it. So there's a clean lineage back to it. And Yota Tsuji is walking around with that old belt. And I was really worried that they weren't going to do that. You know, like that they were just going to move forward. But for these guys and this next generation, fighting for the title that these other guys held, and now that they're gone, that looks so much better and looks so much cleaner than fighting for, you know, the 16th iteration, 16th reign of the World Heavyweight Championship. So they're riding the ship. There is every opportunity for 2026 to be a really good rebuilding year for New Japan. And off of the first show alone, I do feel good about it, but they're not in a great place financially or with attendance or anything like that, if we're being honest with each other.
I would say lately, roughly half the times we talk about New Japan on here, it's commenting on the championship belt. And we have commented ever since they switched it out. Why would you get rid of that beautiful belt? I mean, to me, the IWGP title, I think that's what, the version 4. Yeah, that is one of the top 3 world championships of all time. To me, it's in some varying order. It's the WWF Winged Eagle, it's the Big Gold, and it's that one. And you know, I like the AEW World Title a lot too. That's almost in the conversation. Yeah, but to me, like, those 3 are the best world championship belts of all time. So I was super happy to hear that, you know, that came back. I haven't watched New Year Dash yet. But I'll just bring it up. I'll just bring it up now because Justin said he wanted me to ask this, and yeah, I do plan on watching because I heard great reviews, and just hearing you talk about it now really makes me want to watch it. But Justin wanted me to ask you, since he couldn't make the show tonight, what you think about Yota Tsuji, declaring that he will only defend the title against New Japan guys. Justin thought at first kind of lame that he wasn't a big fan of that, but since Yota brought back the old title, he can forgive him because it's such a beautiful title belt. What do you think about that?
You need someone who's going to look at everyone else and say, no, fuck you. You want this, you fight your way to me. He's got to be the big time, right? There's no one else in this vacuum. He's got to step up. He's got to say the things that make you talk about Yota Tsuji in a way where you like raise your eyebrow or you wonder, where's he going with this? But he's in the conversation now. You know what I mean? Like, people saw that match with Takeshita. You saw what a lot of people who've been watching New Japan have seen from day one. And if you remember, when he returned, Sonata was the champion. And it's been a long time since he's been here. And he had that opportunity at Dominion. And there were a lot of people advocating to put the belt on him now. And they didn't. And for what you could argue back and forth whether it was the right call or not. They finally did. He was the first of those guys in that generation to win that belt. And he's got to be the guy to rise up to the challenge. He's got to, is it a title makes the man or the man makes the title? And I think it's both with him right now. Like, he's got to have dominant title defenses. He's got to look like the guy. And if these guys come to New Japan and they want a shot at it, sure. But he should not be like, oh, yeah, come on by. Like, oh, you're a top guy in another promotion. Like, he doesn't care about the other promotion. He could give two craps about AEW. And I think in real life, he does not care about AEW in any way, shape, or form, because they can be honest about that stuff. And a lot of those guys really don't. Like, they breaking the walls a little bit. They'll work at AEW, but they won't work for AEW, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is going to carry himself like he's the man. And that means not compromising what you're going to say, even if it pisses off people.
It makes me incredibly happy to hear. I think, and you have been a lot closer to this scene than I have, when AEW became an entity and they formed a partnership, I'm going to use that in parentheses, with New Japan. I think AEW is taking advantage of it. They've done the same thing with CMLL. And it almost seems to me like AEW hasn't done too many favors for either of these promotions. What do you think of this working relationship between AEW and New Japan? Is it much of one?
Pragmatically, I look at it from both sides, because I do an AEW pay-per-view recap with Garrett Gonzalez for every show. So I do see both sides of this, and I do have a little bit of insight. Tony Khan is a fantastic businessman. I think what he's been able to accomplish with AEW far exceeds the expectations of what anyone thought he could do and the successes he's reached. He's gotten more pay-per-view buys than most any other company outside of WWE in years, and has maintained a consistent viewership for these shows. So that is to be applauded. With that said, he is still a businessman with his priorities being his own product. And so he will dip and he will take and he will do what he needs to do in order to feel like he is both appeasing his partnerships and getting what he needs out of it as well. He's a very powerful and exceptionally smart man who may feel like he does not need to do extra things beyond the basic to accomplish his goals. I do not believe that New Japan has fully benefited from their partnership with AEW. I think there is an opportunity to make a storyline a bit more out of it, where they could legitimately do a war between AEW and New Japan, maybe with like guys like Takeshita and Andrade, although kind of being split between like the lines now that they're involved in some way, shape, or form. There are opportunities to do that kind of thing. And in the pro wrestling business, in all honesty, it's probably going to happen, There's no Tony Khan is right, New Japan is wrong, or New Japan is right, Tony Khan is wrong. It's just a myopic picture of gray area that you just, depending on what side of the business deal you're on, you're going to find the advantages or disadvantages, or see why one side is in the right and one side is in the wrong. You have to remove the tribalism and just understand that there are complex things going on between these companies that far exceed Tony Khan said yes or no to something and have more to do with the Japanese side trying to be honorable in their business dealings and expect an honorable transaction in the end, rather than I'm going to get everything that I want and you're not going to get anything at all. CMLL and New Japan, unfortunately, are not the big fish in this relationship. Tony Khan is much more powerful than that. So you just have to live with the reality of it. As long as they're in a partnership with each other, the dynamic is going to be that way.
Yeah, I think at the same time, it's interesting because that dynamic seems to have kind of flipped from early on in AEW. Because I mean, I do recall when AEW first started, there was no partnership, and this was a common talking point among fans. Like the only time I've ever done the media scrum with AEW was Revolution 2020, and I remember during that scrum, people are asking Tony about, "Are you guys gonna work with New Japan?" And he made some comment. I don't remember exactly how he said it, but paraphrasing here, something along the lines of, "I'd love to work with New Japan. We've been generous with them." And because at that time Moxley was going over there, but they weren't getting any New Japan guys. And he's like, I'd like to do something, but he basically said like they weren't returning his calls, kind of thing. Until then eventually, obviously, Forbidden Door happened and things kind of opened up. And since then, yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. New Japan definitely has not benefited like AEW has from the relationship. So that's flipped around. I mean, what do you think the odds are that they would run a Forbidden Door at the Tokyo Dome?
I think it could happen in the next 5 years, but I don't think it happens in the next 2 years.
Okay, that's fair. It'd be super cool. I think New Japan has to work through this period they're in before doing something like that.
Yes. I think they need, and I think they are well aware that they have to build confidence with the brand going forward. It cannot be part of the roster and then a bunch of indie talent and talent that you might see on GCW, Ring of Honor, lower on the card of AEW trying to fill out the roster. That's not the authentic New Japan experience that people want. And doing the Death Bay Invitational in Vegas is a really good start. Doing the G1 show is also a good start. Are they going to try Madison Square Garden again sometime? Like, I think that's probably something that they need to try first before, they bring AEW there. Because AEW is a bit more niche. They don't have the audience factor where they could help fill out the Tokyo Dome. It would still need to be the New Japan talent with a strong build rather than anybody over there other than Okada and Ospreay and those guys. And they did set up programs with the things that you could move forward. The idea to me that Aaron Wolf and Okada seems incredibly viable moving forward. And that's the guy that Okada puts over, for the next generation of wrestling. If he's going to be gone and he's famously not found a guy that he's willing to put over, Aaron Wolf might be the guy, and that's something you could do at a Forbidden Door, but I almost think that you just want to do that at WrestleKingdom because the WrestleKingdom is always going to be a bigger show than the crossover show with the other brand, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Back to something you said earlier about Yota Tsuji losing to Sonata in his World Championship opportunity a few years ago.
Okay.
And I almost liken it to like Okada when he came back from his excursion. Within 5-6 months, he defeated Tanahashi in 2012 to win the IWGP Championship. And there was some controversy of going with somebody that young. In your opinion, do you feel that New Japan didn't quite want to repeat that history for the potential backlash, or do you think he wasn't ready? Just kind of give me your thoughts on that. And then do you think that like this moment here, which I thought was obviously the right choice and excellent, was justified? Like it should have been here at WrestleKingdom 20.
This was the last chance for this to happen, is the best way that I could put it. If he didn't win here, Yota Tsuji likely would have been doomed or would have been cataclysmically damaged as a main eventer because of the optics of losing on this stage alongside these other guys winning or having the send off of when Yoda won that match, you knew that there was a guy going forward now that the guy was leaving. Does that make, you know what I mean? So the idea of whether it should have been years ago or not, I think has more to do with whether New Japan was comfortable building around this guy at the time. They still had Naito. They still had Okada. Ospreay was still there. So they had a lot more options and they felt like they could take their time with the guy. Over time, all of those people left. And suddenly that void at the top of people that could put him over were no longer there. And they put Shota Umino with Ospreay in a bunch of programs before he left, and not Yota Tsuji. And he was in the same faction as Naito, so you couldn't really have him to put over. And Okada didn't do it. So you kind of missed a window there, and you had to find the right opportunity and the right guy. So when Takeshita showed up in the G1, not this year, but last year, and they had their match in, I believe, they had a couple of matches last year, you saw something. You saw something real special. And a lot of people saw that Takeshita was incredibly special. And since he's not there all the time, he was used to build up Yota Tsuji in absentia, with Yota Tsuji being able to be the mouthpiece. Like, no, I'm going to take the reins. I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to do everything that I need to do. And I'm going to bring like the legacy and clout. I think they should have done it in hindsight back then, but I understand the false sense of confidence that they had that they didn't need to. The booking in between then and now, for the most part, pardon my language, probably inexcusable.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we should talk about this main event a little bit.
Sure.
As much as I am enjoying this has been a great conversation. And we're not going to talk about the whole card. You ran through it on Speaking of Strong Style. You did a show while you were still in Japan, which was pretty
I was dying
incredible.
that morning.
Skyline behind you and all of that. And you guys will be live on Thursday night. So people should check that out, or just check out the podcast feeds for the show. I've only watched the last two matches on this show. That's all I've had time to watch so far. Loved them both. Tsuji defeating Takeshita was a freaking outstanding match. And I thought, with Okada and Tanahashi, that we know Tanahashi's been pretty hobbled when he's worked the last couple of years, but Okada is so good that you figured, these are two guys who have main evented the Tokyo Dome so many times before. If anyone can get just one last great performance out of Tanahashi, it's Okada. They have that familiarity and history. And, a lot of people are talking, since it just happened, they're comparing this to, the John Cena farewell and everything. Tanahashi losing the match, which is tradition in pro wrestling. We talked about that when Cena lost, but still, and, I've seen people talking about this in our Discord too, how it wasn't really some people thought Cena should have won, but other people thought, he didn't win, and they didn't feel like they treated his send off as big as they should have, like post match, pre-match, all of that. This was perfectly done, in my opinion. I mean, that pre-match video was so good. The match itself was phenomenal. Tanahashi, he turned back the clock a little bit in this one with some of those moves he did, especially off the top to the outside. And then, my God, the post-match with all those dudes coming out, just a shame that we didn't get Nakamura. That's a whole different conversation. But
AJ. Or
AJ. WWE, what can you say? But the other guys
all had
a
reason to be there. You know what I mean? Like, each one of them had their moment with him, and for the pageantry, they're all in the conversation. And what it is,
Oh yeah. But I thought pre-match, the match, the post-match, all phenomenal. I guess this is a big question, but just kind of put us in your seat and what it was like sitting there at ringside, seeing that video come up, what you were feeling during the match, maybe anything that stood out during the match that we wouldn't have noticed watching on television. And then, your thoughts on the post-match ceremony.
So all three of the last matches all had something a little bit special to them. You had that Aaron Wolf Evil match, and you were seeing how 50,000 people who were behind this Olympic star wanted to see him win. And it was unlike anything that I had seen before. And when he hit, the angle slam, which he actually did hit an angle slam in that match, and he did that frog splash, you just saw people like, oh yeah, this can be our guy. Like, we're behind you now. Then you had the Takeshita and Tsuji match, which is basically made in Japan versus made in New Japan. And then you had this main event, which you want to talk about that Cena match in WWE. That match was, in hindsight, it wasn't about Cena's retirement. It was about getting Gunther over.
Mm-hmm.
This was not about getting anybody over. This was about sending off Tanahashi with the best match that these people could possibly see. Okada 1000% knew the assignment of he needed to make sure that these people remembered every last bit of this and got to soak it in one last Tanahashi performance. What they said about John Cena and Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. Not as good as he once was, but for one night, as good as he ever was. And that's exactly what the Tanahashi and Okada match was. I had seats that were basically 8 people deep from the ramp. And from my line of sight was exactly where Okada and Tanahashi did the tombstone pile driver spot. And then the count out crawl that Tanahashi did. I could see the beginning and I could track the camera with my phone all the way to the 19 when he crawled into the ring. That's like, you could smell the sweat is what I'm saying here. The pulsing cheers from the crowd is what I remember the most. When Tanahashi would do a strike or he would do a sling blade, you would hear that in the television broadcast. But what I'm telling you is you could feel it on the ground floor when they're doing it, because they're all doing it in unison. So you had that slight little wind gut, like that. You know what I'm saying? That little like shift in the air pressure around you. And it was something. I've been in the rafters for Mania 28, which was Rock versus Cena. And I felt Florida like open air dome, like arena just shaking to its core. But because this was all in a dome and it was all covered, I just felt the impact of everyone reacting to the thing just around me at the time. And there were a lot of people that I knew that went to the show that cried during the match and during the ceremony, but I didn't. I almost felt like I was so locked in and trying to take in every bit of like what was happening here, because it was so thoroughly just like, this is a moment. Like, just clock all of it that you can. I don't care if my battery dies. I had a battery pack or whatever. It's just like, get as much of this as you can to history, because this is no one else is going to be doing this right now. Like, I saw people with their cameras, but it felt like I had an opportunity here. And watching this match, you got to about 20 minutes and you didn't know how much longer that they were going to go. You know they were going to go at least 20. They ended up going like 33 minutes and 3 seconds. And you had Red Shoes reacting to everything. And you had Tanahashi doing the sling blade, like the Nakamura and the Shibata stuff. And you're watching it and you're seeing it and it's getting closer, right? It's just that the moment to the end. And I think when everyone knew it was done was when Okada couldn't get Tanahashi to stay down, being the AEW Okada. And he did the old Okada drop kick. He did the old Okada elbow from the top. And then he did the Rainmaker pose. Mm-hmm. And then when he did that Rainmaker pose, this place went unbelievably, like the energy in the room just was like at an all-time high, because you weren't sure if you were going to get that. You weren't sure what you like. Okay, I'm not going to give you this, but at the end, I have to do this because I'm not going to lose to this guy. And he hit it, and everyone knew. And Red Shoes hit that 3, and it was just like, oh shit, it's over. And After that, they went immediately into the ceremony. You know, you had Tanahashi in the ring. He's got his hands over his face. I got a photo of him just laying down, hands over the face, just kind of taking it all in. I got a photo of Okada just like sitting up after the match, where just for a brief second, he just sat there and he's like, holy shit, we fucking did it. You know what I mean? Like, we fucking killed it. Just that brief moment, and I lost it, and he had it, but it's a little out of focus, but you can see it. And then he does his bow of respect, and you know, he's crying, and he heads out of the ring, and then all of a sudden the pageantry happens, and you got the Switchblade looking good. You had Will Ospreay, little stiff. You had Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi, which, oh my God, that was frightening to watch, and I'm weeping on the inside when I'm seeing this. You had Fujinami and Muto. You had Naito, who tried to steal the show. All in the pageantry. They do the video. He gets his flowers. He does the air guitar over and over. And when you guys did your opening riff with that guitar, I was thinking all about Tanahashi's air guitar, that he would be doing that air guitar with that little musical riff. And then he does his thing. He walks up to the ramp, and you think it's over, but Kikuchi, who's a guy who dresses in the New Japan sports suit and kind of directs the traffic ringside, put him off into this little cart that was pushed by all the New Japan Hontai members, and he literally did a victory lap around the outfield line, around the ring. He comes back up to the ramp, and I shit you not, he got the grease exit where he's like going off into the sunset with a smoke machine obscuring him and the doors closing behind him. And you're sitting there going, 10 stars, 10 stars. Like, just whatever that was, like, that sends this guy off into the sunset. 1,000%. There's no if and or but. If you felt like you didn't get something out of that retirement, I don't know what to tell you, because they threw everything but the kitchen sink into that thing. It was an all-timer moment, and that stage was so beautiful that it just made everything look. It popped in real life.
One serious and one unserious question.
Sure.
We're going to go serious question first. The only person you didn't mention, and I'm glad you didn't because I can bring this question up, is Katsuyori Shibata. And yes. Tanahashi, by far, to me, looked like he was the most emotional when Shibata came out. So my serious question is, go through a little bit of their relationship and as to why Tanahashi acted this way. And then the unserious question, you got to ask it because you already said 10 stars already. Does everything get that extra star because it was in the Tokyo Dome?
The last 3 matches all get extra points for being in the Tokyo Dome. The other, the Saya Kantami match, I don't think so, because I think that match killed regardless of where it was, kind of thing. So for the stars, what was the
Katsuyori Shibata?
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I forgot about him. So we talked quickly about Nakamura not being there, and he ended up not being there, but he was part of the Three Musketeers alongside Tanahashi and Shibata, and they all came up together. They were all in the development together. Shibata never reached that level of title holdership or anything that the other two did, but he was just as important to them. And through everything that happened through the first 17 years of their career before Shibata had the traumatic brain injury and was no longer allowed to work in New Japan for many complex reasons that I unfortunately don't have time to get into here right now. He parted ways and went over to AEW. So for Shibata to be allowed back to be in the Tokyo Dome, to be able to come back when he was there as a day one guy working alongside in the New Japan dojo, when none of them knew if they were going to amount to anything into this business, let alone the accomplishments that they've reached. It was emotional for both of them because they've seen a lot of people not make it for a number of reasons. And they've seen a number of people not be able to see through their careers to make it to 26 years, everything that they did, and to see that it was all worth it in the end. You know, like that was the kind of relationship that they were getting to share with right now. Like Tanahashi, there was a point in his life where he wasn't sure if Shibata was going to be able to see this day. You know what I mean? Like if Shibata was ever going to, like, this was opportunity. And at least one of those guys, you know, that one of those day one people that wasn't a mentor, wasn't a teacher, but was your guy alongside you shoulder to shoulder. Like, it's validating, and it's also like it closes the chapter. It makes it all feel like you've done everything that you need to do. Like everything, every last I was dotted and every last T has been crossed.
Well said. Really well said. When you're walking out of that building, and I'm thinking too about what you were saying with the reaction of the crowd, because anyone who's watched a New Japan show, totally different environment than watching a US show or a show that happens in England or anything like that. You don't have that constant noise from the crowd, but when something big happens, everybody reacts, kind of like you were describing, with almost feeling that in the venue. And I noticed that too. You had sent me a video you took of the pile driver, and like you can hear that coming across. It's just when you've watched it on TV so many times, to see it like on a cell phone video and just hear everyone react in unison, it's kind of cool. When you would walk out of a show like this in the US, you would have kind of that like buzz as people are walking through the tunnel or the concourse or whatever, of everyone talking about the show. What's it like in Japan after the show, and especially after something like this, as you're exiting the dome?
Very controlled, organized exit, including people behaving much better than they would in America doing it. The best comparison that I could say is that I once went to an NFC championship football game, and it felt like the same energy trying to empty out like a big filled football stadium.
Okay.
Like just that energy of some people are down, some people are up. Like the euphoria is there for a bunch of people. Some people are sad that, they ended the way that they did. But there's also that like tired energy. Like we have dedicated every last bit of energy that we have for the show. Now we just kind of let's quietly like reflect upon it.
Yeah. Did you and some of the guys that do the podcast, did you all meet up after the show and go get a drink, or were you pretty much back to the hotel and out for the night?
We tried to coordinate a little bit, and so I tried and met up with the Keeping It Strong style guys, and we went back to the place that we did the meetup earlier, but it was a little too packed, and we ended up leaving, and we went over on the other side of the dome to this place called Pepper Lunch, which is basically like you go to a kiosk, you sit down at a spot, and they bring you like a sizzling plate of steak with some rice and some broccoli, and it's literally just cooking on your steak until you want it to be done, and then you dip it in your onion sauce or whatever. And that was basically a really nice meal to have. I did see Will Ospreay and Alex Windsor right after we did at Pepper Lunch, but they wanted to get food and we were leaving, and there's kind of that like moment of like, just let them have their moment kind of thing, like just hi bye, even though like, you had the opportunity, but sometimes you just got to read the room, and they don't have to be on all the time. But the other guys from We Work Stiff and Super J-Cast stuck around over at the hub, and they ended up having Robbie Eagles over there and a couple other people who were just talking after the show. So I probably should have gone back to the hub, but my knee was barking and it had been a long day, and I was like, you know what? I can just call it. This was a good day. And I knew I had the podcast in the morning. So I stayed up until about midnight, got up around 6, kind of got my act together, packed up my stuff, and sat down for the podcast. And then almost immediately after that, I made my way from the airport and got on a plane and got home.
Give our audience either a favorite or best Hiroshi Tanahashi match that you would recommend.
Guys, this is the match. There's no, like, if you could go watch their first WrestleKingdom match, Okada and Tanahashi back at WrestleKingdom 11 or 12 or whatever it was. But if you want to know the impact of what Hiroshi Tanahashi is and has done, and what he means to New Japan, you watch this match. They tell you everything. They line it all up for you and make it as easy as possible to understand the impact that he's had over the last 26 years. If you do want more context for this, I actually sat down with one Dave Meltzer about 2 weeks ago, and he and I, along with Steven, just went over his entire career. Moments like whether Brock Lesnar no-showing in Japan in 2006 truly set Tanahashi back, or if he still got to where he needed to be in the first place, the eras of his career, all of his star ratings, anything you want to know, like the kitchen sink kind of interview. We just threw it all at Dave, and it was a lot of fun. So this could be the aperitif to this main podcast of getting all your background information about one Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Very good. Well said. Well, hey, man, I don't want to take up any more of your time. It's your birthday. I want you to spend it with your loved ones and everything. But
well, I had a good time, and I was really I've been looking forward to coming on and finding a reason to come chat with you, fine gentlemen. And I don't consider this a waste of my time on my birthday.
No, it was fun. Great conversation. I hope the listeners enjoyed it because, again, we don't usually spend a whole episode on New Japan. It's been a while, in fact. And so this was a lot of fun. And like I said at the top, if you guys want consistent New Japan talk, you need to check out Jeremy and Steven on Speaking of Strong Style. It's on the Fight Game Media Network podcasting feed. It's on their YouTube channel as well. Can't recommend it enough. Jeremy, just a great guy. Appreciate it again.
Jesse, Ryan, I appreciate it so much having you on here. And hey, if New Japan is getting more interest from your viewership and stuff like the New Japan Cup or Super Juniors or G1, you want to come in and chat about it, I'll make a drive by and a sit in to chat about it with you guys anytime.
Awesome. Sounds good. And yeah, guys, if you want another way to support Top Rope Nation, we've got a Top Rope Nation Classics coming very soon. The poll is up right now for our patrons. If you're a patron, make sure you vote. If you want to become a patron and get all of our bonus shows, which Jeremy is a patron, and we appreciate his support. Link in the broadcast description. We got like over 240 bonus shows, new stuff going up every single week. Jesse just put out his 200th episode of TRN Unplugged, and the guests were Justin and myself, and we talked about the entire history of Top Rope Nation, how it started, the changes, the twists and turns along the way, had some laughs. It's awesome stuff. You can check that on the Patreon feed. You can also find it here on the YouTube channel. If you become a YouTube member, the video is posted for members as well. Another way to support the show. And of course, it's totally free. Just subscribe here to the channel on YouTube or your favorite podcasting feed. We would appreciate that very much. That helps us out. Tell a friend about Top Rope Nation. And well, I'm sure we'll be coming at you again very soon. We don't have our next show date exactly decided yet, but it will be very, very soon. And Jesse will have an Unplugged here again too before too long.
The only two things I have left to say are Jeremy will be joining me next week.
Yeah.
We're starting the
Stephen Conway.
Yes, his co-host Stephen Conway with the 52-match project kicking off with January 4th, 1996. Antonio Inoki versus Big Van Vader. You know him as Vader. And last thing, Jeremy, you mentioned Katsuyori Shibata in the injury. One of the 52 matches I have is Kazuchika Okada versus Katsuyori Shibata April 1st, 2017. This is your formal invitation to come talk about it, and we can get into the politics of Shibata not going back to New Japan as a full-time performer.
Put it on the board.
There you go. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, happy birthday, Jeremy. Hope everyone enjoyed this show. Absolutely. And we will be catching you all again next time. Take care, everybody. We'll see you then.
Go Ace.